Ladies and gentlemen, friends and fellow travelers on this journey of life, we live in a world that constantly tests our patience, our understanding, and our peace of mind. From the people we encounter daily to the situations we face, it often feels like there's someone or something just waiting to rattle our nerves, provoke our emotions, and steal our joy. But let me tell you something, my friends. Anger, frustration, and bitterness do not have to be your constant companions. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's hard to stay calm when people push our buttons. How can we maintain our peace when the world seems to be full of chaos and conflict? Well, today I want to share with you a timeless truth, a principle that can transform the way you respond to others and to the world around you. And that principle is this: your peace is not dependent on the actions of others, but on the condition of your heart. I want to take you to a place where we can all find real and lasting peace. Not a peace that is fleeting, not a peace that is dependent on circumstances, but a deep, abiding peace that can withstand the storms of life. First, let us understand this important truth: we cannot control the actions of others. You might wish that people would be kinder, that they would be more understanding, but they would be more considerate. But the reality is, there will always be people who do things that upset us, who say things that hurt us, and who act in ways that challenge our patience. But my friends, the key to maintaining peace is not in changing others, but in changing how we respond to them. The Bible teaches us to respond with love. In the book of Proverbs, we are told that a gentle answer turns away wrath. A gentle answer. When someone insults you, when someone cuts you off in traffic, when someone is rude or dismissive, your response matters more than their actions. It is easy to respond in anger, to return insult with insult, but in doing so, we only invite more anger into our hearts. We become slaves to our emotions. But when we choose to respond with kindness, with patience, with a soft word, we break the cycle of negativity. But how, you ask, can we do this? How can we remain calm in the face of provocation? It begins with understanding that anger is a choice, not a reaction. Yes, I said it. Anger is a choice. We have been given the power to choose our response. It is in our hands. No one can make you angry without your consent. When we realize this, we can reclaim our peace. When someone wrongs us, we must remind ourselves that we are not responsible for their actions, but we are responsible for how we respond. In moments of anger, take a deep breath. Step back, pause. Ask yourself, is this worth my peace? Is this worth my energy? Too often we get caught up in petty disputes, in arguments that do nothing but drain us. But true wisdom lies in knowing when to let go, when to forgive, and when to move on. But there's something even more powerful, something deeper, that can help us in these moments. And that is the gift of forgiveness. The Bible tells us that we must forgive, not just once, not just 7 times, but 77 times, meaning there is no limit to forgiveness. Forgiveness frees us from the burden of bitterness. It allows us to let go of the anger and pain that others have caused us and move forward in freedom. You see, forgiveness is not for the other person. It is for your peace. It is for your soul. When we forgive, we break the chains that hold us in anger and resentment. And in doing so, we find peace. And this peace, my friends, is not something the world can give. It is something that comes from within, a peace that transcends understanding. And lastly, remember this: the greatest peace comes from knowing that you are loved and accepted, not by others, but by the one who created you. There is a peace that passes all understanding, a peace that can guard our hearts and minds, a peace that comes from a relationship with the Lord. When we place our trust in Him, when we lean on His strength, we find the courage to face anything the world throws at us without being rattled. My friends, how do we never get angry or bothered by anyone? We choose peace. We respond with love, we forgive freely, and we remember that our peace is rooted in something far greater than the actions of others. It is rooted in the unwavering love of God and the power of His peace within us. May you be filled with His peace today and every day, and may it guard your heart from anger, frustration, and bitterness. May you walk through this world with a heart that is calm, a spirit that is unshaken, and a soul that is at rest. God bless you all. We live in a world that constantly tests our patience, our understanding, and our peace of mind. From the people we encounter daily to the situations we face, it often feels like there's someone or something just waiting to rattle our nerves, provoke our emotions, and steal our joy. But let me tell you something, my friends, anger, frustration, and bitterness do not have to be your constant companions. Every day, we are bombarded with countless opportunities to lose our temper, to become upset, or to be disturbed by the actions of others. Whether it's a friend who disappoints you, a colleague who seems inconsiderate, or even a stranger whose actions seem to irritate you, there are plenty of chances for frustration to arise. Yet, we must realize that our peace doesn't have to be held hostage by the actions of others. We do not need to allow the words or behaviors of others to control how we feel or how we live. Here is something deeply powerful in recognizing that we cannot control the actions of others, but we can control how we respond to them. This is one of the most liberating truths you can embrace in life. It means that when someone acts in a way that frustrates or angers you, you do not have to allow it to dictate your emotional state. You do not have to let their actions determine your mood or your peace of mind. The world will always be full of people who act in ways that we may find challenging or hurtful. But how we respond is what truly matters. Now, I know it's not always easy. We are human, and sometimes the natural impulse is to react, to defend ourselves, or to retaliate when we feel hurt or wrong. It is a natural reaction to want to protect our own pride, our dignity, or our comfort. But the truth is, reacting in anger rarely brings lasting resolution. It only perpetuates the cycle of frustration. Responding in anger often leads to more division, more hurt, and more bitterness. It does not bring peace. And this is where we find the key to true peace. We must choose to respond differently. One of the most powerful tools in overcoming anger is to remember that anger is a choice, not an automatic response. When someone wrongs us, we have the ability to choose how we will respond. We can choose to react with hostility, to become upset, or we can choose to remain calm and respond with grace. In fact, this is where true strength lies, in the ability to control ourselves, our emotions, and our reactions. Especially in the face of provocation, it is easy to lash out, to let our emotions take over, but it takes strength to pause, reflect, and choose a response that is rooted in peace and understanding. This doesn't mean that we ignore or suppress our feelings. It doesn't mean we become doormats for others to walk over. No, it means that we take the time to process what is happening within us and respond in a way that reflects the best of who we are, not the worst. When we choose to respond with patience, understanding, or even silence, we disarm the anger within us and allow peace to take its rightful place. But how can we begin to change the way we respond? The first step is simple. We must become aware of our own emotions. When you feel anger rising within you, take a moment to acknowledge it. Don't try to bury it. Don't try to push it away. Recognize that you are angry, and then decide how you will handle that anger. Ask yourself, is this worth my peace? Is it worth my energy? In many cases, you will find that the answer is no. It is also essential to remember that our response to others is not about them. It is about us. Our response is an expression of our own inner peace, or lack thereof. When we choose to remain calm and composed, we are not doing it for the other person. We are doing it for our own well-being, for our own peace of mind. When you let someone else's actions upset you, you are giving them power over your emotions. But when you choose to remain peaceful, you are taking back that power and choosing to guard your heart. The more you practice this, the easier it becomes. Over time, responding with patience, love, and grace will become your natural way of engaging with the world. It won't mean that you never feel anger again, but it will mean that you no longer allow anger to control you. Instead, you become the master of your emotions, not the servant of them. And in this, my friends, is where true freedom lies. It is in the realization that we do not have to be controlled by the actions of others, that we can choose to live in peace, no matter what is happening around us. It is in the choice to rise above the chaos, to walk through this world unshaken and unbothered by the storms that come our way. The Bible teaches us to respond with love. In the book of Proverbs, we are told that a gentle answer turns away wrath. A gentle answer. When someone insults you, when someone cuts you off in traffic, when someone is rude or dismissive, your response matters more than their actions. It is easy to respond in anger, to return insult with insult, but in doing so, we only invite more anger into our hearts. We become slaves to our emotions. But when we choose to respond with kindness, with patience, with a soft word, we break the cycle of negativity. It's remarkable how often we forget the power of gentleness. When life feels overwhelming or when we feel hurt, we may instinctively want to lash out. It seems natural to defend ourselves, to make sure our feelings are known and validated. But the true wisdom comes from understanding that responding with love and gentleness is not weakness, it is strength. It takes more courage to respond with kindness than to let anger or frustration control us. In the heat of the moment, it can be difficult to remain calm. But by practicing gentleness, we find that we don't need to fight back to feel powerful. We don't need to raise our voices or put someone else down to feel validated. In fact, responding with a soft, kind answer often disarms the other person, causing them to reflect on their own actions. Too often, we believe that if someone wrongs us, we are entitled to be angry, entitled to hold grudges. We may feel justified in our anger, and indeed, there are times when our emotions are completely understandable. Yet, holding on to that anger only harms us. It is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. Holding a grudge, nurturing a sense of injustice, or allowing ourselves to remain angry for too long only robs us of peace. We can become consumed by it, and before we know it, that anger takes root deep within our hearts. It begins to shape our interactions, color our view of the world, and cloud our ability to experience joy. Responding with love, on the other hand, brings healing. It restores peace to our hearts and minds. When we respond with gentleness, we are not only demonstrating maturity, but we are also reflecting a greater truth. We are showing that we recognize the value of peace over the need to be right. The Bible tells us that gentle answer turns away wrath. But it also says that love covers a multitude of sins. This means that when we choose to love instead of respond with anger, we are not excusing the other person's behavior, but we are choosing to rise above the situation and not allow it to drag us down. This doesn't mean we let others walk over us. It doesn't mean we allow ourselves to be mistreated. In fact, choosing gentleness in response to anger often requires us to be stronger than we would be if we allowed ourselves to lash out. When we respond with love, we are showing that we value ourselves and the other person enough not to let the situation spiral into bitterness or division. There is power in refusing to return hate with hate. In choosing love, we break free from the cycle of conflict and allow the possibility for reconciliation. Choosing love, choosing gentleness is also an invitation for growth. When we choose to respond with kindness, we begin to break old patterns of reaction and replace them with healthier ones. We begin to create new habits that reflect the character of love. And in doing so, we not only bring peace to our own hearts, but we also contribute to peace in our relationships and in the world around us. Every time we choose gentleness over wrath, every time we choose love over anger, we are contributing to a more peaceful and harmonious world. It's important to remember that this is a choice we must make intentionally. It won't always be easy, especially when we feel deeply hurt or offended. But this is where the true strength of character comes in. It's in those moments when we are tempted to retaliate or to hold on to anger that we have the opportunity to grow and reflect the love we are called to show. The more we practice responding with love, the more natural it becomes. Responding with love also frees us from the burden of carrying around anger, resentment, and bitterness. These emotions are heavy and they wear us down. But when we choose love, we choose lightness. We choose peace. We choose freedom from the emotional weight that holds us back from fully experiencing joy and connection with others. Love is the great liberator. When we allow it to guide our responses, we experience a sense of peace that cannot be shaken by the actions of others. This is the path to true freedom. It's not about ignoring our feelings or pretending that hurt doesn't exist. It's about acknowledging our emotions and choosing, in the face of those emotions, to rise above and respond with grace and love. And in doing so, we break free from the power that anger has over us, and we allow peace to reign in our hearts. But how? You ask, can we do this? How can we remain calm in the face of provocation? It begins with understanding that anger is a choice, not a reaction. Yes, I said it. Anger is a choice. We have been given the power to choose our response. It is in our hands. No one can make you angry without your consent. When we realize this, we can reclaim our peace. When someone wrongs us, we must remind ourselves that we are not responsible for their actions, but we are responsible for how we respond to them. His might be one of the hardest truths to accept, because so often we feel justified in our anger. We believe that someone has done something to us, and because of that, we are entitled to be upset. The situation may indeed be difficult or painful, and our feelings may be very real, but the power to respond is still ours. If we allow someone else's actions to provoke our anger, we are surrendering our peace to them. We are giving them control over how we feel. And that is not how we are meant to live. The moment we recognize that we can choose our response, we take back control. It is no longer about what the other person did. It becomes about how we decide to respond. And it's here that we find the power to remain calm. We can choose to take a step back, to breathe deeply, to center ourselves before reacting. In doing so, we give ourselves the opportunity to respond in a way that reflects who we truly are, rather than reacting out of impulse or emotion. Think about the times when you've reacted in anger. Perhaps someone made a cutting remark, or maybe a situation didn't go as you expected. How did you feel afterward? Did it bring you peace? Did it make things better? More often than not, anger only complicates matters. It makes us feel worse, deepens the divide between ourselves and others, and leaves us with a sense of regret or bitterness. So, if reacting in anger only harms us, why do we continue to choose it? The answer lies in habit, in our natural tendencies to let our emotions dictate our actions. But habits can be changed with practice. We can choose peace over anger, patience over frustration, and gentleness over harshness. One of the most effective ways to begin changing our response to anger is by creating space between the provocation and our reaction. This space, this pause, gives us the opportunity to evaluate the situation objectively. When someone says something hurtful or treats us unfairly, instead of immediately reacting, we can take a moment to ask ourselves, what's the best response here? How can I respond in a way that reflects the peace I want to carry in my heart? In that moment, we can choose to respond with grace, understanding, or simply silence. We may not have control over the actions of others, but we have full control over how we choose to act. Another way to strengthen our ability to choose peace is through mindfulness. When we practice being mindful of our emotions, we become more aware of when anger is starting to rise. We notice the tightness in our chest, the quickening of our breath, the thoughts racing in our mind. This awareness gives us the opportunity to pause before we act. In that brief moment, we can choose to release the anger and shift our focus towards something more constructive. It may be a prayer for peace, a simple acknowledgement that we don't need to be right, or a deep breath to calm our spirit. The more we practice this, the easier it becomes. Over time, we become less reactive and more intentional in our responses. It's like training a muscle. The more we exercise our ability to choose peace, the stronger it becomes. And eventually, we reach a point where reacting in anger feels unnatural, and responding with patience and understanding feels like second nature. At the heart of this practice is the understanding that our peace is more valuable than the temporary satisfaction of being angry or getting the last word. Choosing to respond in anger might give us a momentary sense of release, but it will never give us lasting peace. When we choose peace, we choose to honor our own well-being. We choose to maintain a calm and steady heart, regardless of what is happening around us. It's not about being passive or allowing others to walk all over us. It's about taking control of our inner world, no matter how chaotic or hurtful the outer world may be. We do not have to let the actions of others disrupt our peace. We do not have to give anyone the power to steal our joy or our tranquility. By choosing how we respond, we reclaim the peace that is rightfully ours. And in that choice, we find freedom. As we practice this over time, we will find that we become more resilient, more grounded, and more at peace. The anger that once seemed so natural and automatic will lose its grip on us. And in its place, we will discover a deeper, more lasting peace that comes not from avoiding conflict or suppressing our emotions, but from the simple, profound act of choosing our response. And that, my friends, is where true freedom lies. The Bible tells us that we must forgive, not just once, not just 7 times, but 77 times, meaning there is no limit to forgiveness. Forgiveness frees us from the burden of bitterness. It allows us to let go of the anger and pain that others have caused us and move forward in freedom. You see, forgiveness is not for the other person. It is for your peace. It is for your soul. When we are wronged, it is natural to feel hurt, betrayed, or upset. Our first instinct may be to hold on to those feelings, to harbor resentment, or to seek retribution in some way. But holding on to anger only binds us to the person or situation that caused us pain. It keeps us tied to that moment, constantly reliving the hurt, constantly replaying the injustice in our minds. And in doing so, we prevent ourselves from moving forward. We lock ourselves in a prison of bitterness. Forgiveness, however, is the key that unlocks that prison. When we choose to forgive, we choose to release the power that the offense has over us. Forgiveness does not mean that we forget what happened or that we condone the behavior that caused us harm. It simply means that we refuse to let that hurt control our lives any longer. We refuse to let the past dictate our future. In fact, forgiveness is one of the most powerful acts of self-care that we can offer ourselves. When we forgive, we break free from the chains of resentment. We stop carrying the heavy burden of anger and bitterness. We lay it down, and in doing so, we create space for healing. It is impossible to fully heal while we are holding on to unforgiveness. It's like trying to walk forward while dragging a heavy weight behind us. But when we forgive, we lighten our load and allow ourselves the freedom to move forward without the weight of the past holding us back. Forgiveness also allows us to find peace in the present. When we refuse to forgive, we often find ourselves constantly revisiting past hurts. We may replay the incident over and over in our minds, wondering what we could have done differently or wishing the other person had acted differently. This keeps us stuck in the past, unable to fully engage in the present. But forgiveness breaks that cycle. It enables us to move beyond the past and focus on what lies ahead. It frees us from being trapped in a cycle of negative emotions, and it allows us to embrace peace. And this peace is not just a fleeting sense of calm. It is a deep, abiding peace that comes from knowing that we have chosen to let go of the hurt and the anger. It is a peace that comes from within, a peace that allows us to walk through life unburdened by the past, free to experience joy and connection with others. Forgiveness does not change what happened, but it changes how we respond to it. It transforms our heart and our mind, enabling us to live in peace despite the wrongs that have been done to us. One of the most challenging aspects of forgiveness is the idea that it can feel unjust. After all, if we forgive, it might feel like we are excusing the other person's behavior, or even like we are allowing them to get away with what they did. But forgiveness is not about making things fair. It is about releasing the hold that anger and resentment have on our hearts. It's about choosing peace over punishment, choosing freedom over bondage. We are not forgiving for the benefit of the person who wronged us. We are forgiving for our own sake, for our own well-being. Holding on to anger only harms us. It does not affect the other person nearly as much as it affects us. There is a profound truth in the idea that forgiveness is not a one-time act but a continual choice. Just because we forgive once doesn't mean that the hurt won't resurface. The emotions tied to the offense may return, and the temptation to hold on to bitterness may arise again. But each time we choose to forgive, we strengthen our ability to move forward. We reaffirm our commitment to peace, and we allow ourselves to heal more deeply. It's a continual process of releasing the past and choosing freedom again and again. In choosing forgiveness, we are also choosing to reflect the heart of grace and compassion. We are choosing to be more like the one who forgave us, even when we didn't deserve it. We are embracing the truth that forgiveness is not about fairness, but about mercy and love. Just as we have been forgiven, so too must we forgive others. And in doing so, we find freedom, a freedom that can only be found in the act of letting go and choosing peace over pain. The Bible teaches us that we must forgive not just once, not just 7 times, but 77 times, meaning there is no limit to forgiveness. Forgiveness frees us from the burden of bitterness. It allows us to let go of the anger and pain that others have caused us and move forward in freedom. You see, forgiveness is not for the other person. It is for your peace. It is for your soul. When we are wronged, it's natural to feel hurt, betrayed, or upset. Our hearts can feel heavy with the weight of the offense. The pain can be sharp, and the desire for justice or retaliation can be overwhelming. We may feel justified in holding on to the anger, convinced that we have every right to feel the way we do. But if we are not careful, this anger can consume us. Holding on to anger does not hurt the person who wronged us nearly as much as it hurts us. We are the ones who suffer the most when we refuse to forgive. Forgiveness doesn't mean that we deny our hurt or pretend that what happened was okay. It doesn't mean that we minimize the offense or let the person who wronged us off the hook. It simply means that we choose to release the hold that the hurt has on us. It means that we let go of the emotional weight that binds us to the past and choose to move forward in peace. Holding on to anger keeps us tethered to the past, unable to fully live in the present. But forgiveness releases us from that bond, allowing us to step into freedom. We must understand that forgiveness is a choice we make for ourselves, not for the person who hurt us. It's easy to think that forgiveness is about letting the other person off the hook or excusing their behavior. But in reality, forgiveness is about choosing peace over bitterness. It's about deciding that we will not allow the offense to have power over us any longer. We are not forgiving the other person for their sake. We are forgiving for our own well-being. We are choosing to let go of the anger, hurt, and resentment that are weighing us down. The act of forgiveness is freeing. It breaks the chains of bitterness and releases us from the emotional burden of carrying around unresolved hurt. When we forgive, we stop replaying the hurt over and over in our minds. We stop allowing the offense to control our emotions, and we stop allowing the person who wronged us to continue to hurt us. The anger we feel toward someone who wronged us often grows over time, especially if we refuse to forgive. But when we forgive, that anger dissipates. It no longer holds the same power over us. We stop reliving the moment and start moving forward with a lighter heart. Forgiveness also opens the door to healing. If we continue to hold on to anger and bitterness, we cannot heal. It is like a wound that refuses to be cleaned and dressed. It festers and grows worse. But when we choose forgiveness, we allow our hearts to begin the healing process. It's not easy, and it often takes time, but forgiveness is the first step toward wholeness. When we forgive, we are no longer bound by the past. We allow ourselves to move on, to let go of the pain, and to experience peace once again. One of the hardest aspects of forgiveness is the fact that it often feels unfair. We may wonder why we should forgive someone who has hurt us so deeply, someone who may not even feel remorse for their actions. We may think that forgiveness means that we are letting the person off the hook, that they will never face the consequences of their actions. But forgiveness is not about fairness. It is not about giving someone a free pass or excusing their behavior. It is about choosing to free ourselves from the burden of resentment. When we forgive, we are not saying that the offense was okay or that the other person was right. We are simply releasing ourselves from the emotional grip of the past. Forgiveness is also a process. It is not a one-time event, and it doesn't always happen instantly. Sometimes the hurt is deep and the wounds take time to heal. But each time we choose to forgive, we break the cycle of anger and hurt. We choose to let go of the pain a little more. We choose to walk in freedom a little further. It is through this continual process of forgiveness that we find peace. We may have to forgive again and again, but each time we do, we move closer to the freedom that comes from letting go. And as we forgive, we reflect the heart of the one who forgave us. We remember that we have been forgiven not because we deserved it, but because of grace. In forgiving others, we mirror that same grace. We show the world that forgiveness is not just for the easy situations, but for the hard ones, the ones that feel impossible. When we forgive, we not only release the hold that others have on us, but we also experience the freedom that comes from choosing love and grace over bitterness and anger.